Good day, boys and girls. So for today's lesson, we're mainly going to be focusing on adding and subtracting common fractions. Now I'm going to share with you a few key points which you can have in mind when you are working with fractions. So the first one is that whenever you have any mixed number present in your sum that you are working with, always convert that mixed number into an improper fraction. So if you have a mixed number, convert it into an improper fraction before you add or subtract fractions. Then secondly, the second point, it is very important or it's very crucial for you to find the lowest common factor, especially if you are adding and subtracting fractions. So always find your lowest common multiple, also known as your LCM. Then next up, use that LCM to make the denominators the same or make that LCM your denominator. In that case, you'll be able to have the same denominator and add and subtract only your numerators. So for now, for our first task, we're only going to be focusing on add and add common fractions before we go to separating common fractions. So our first example, we don't have any mixed number present. So there's no need for us to convert any mixed numbers because all the fractions in our questions are in the fraction form rather than in the mixed number form. So we have 1 over 4 plus 2 over 16 plus 5 over 8. Now, we need to find the LCM for the fractions. So we need a number that 4 can divide into, 16 can divide into, and 8 can divide into. So that must be the same number. So if we look at our LCM is 16. So the lowest common multiple for this sum is 16. So now the next step is to bring down the fraction, the first fraction as it is. So if we look at this fraction, this is the first fraction I'm talking about, 1 over 4. Here's 1 over 4 in the next step. Then the next task now is to work concurrently with your LCM and your denominator. So your next task is to ask yourself, what number must you multiply the 4 by to give you an answer of 16? So you need to multiply this 4 by another 4 to give you the answer of the LCM, which is 16. Then you must do the same thing in your numerator. So you multiplied your denominator by 4. You must also multiply your numerator by 4. Then let's bring down our addition sign and let's move on to the second fraction. In the second fraction, you're also going to do the same thing. Bring down the fraction as it is. Then you're going to ask yourself, what number must I multiply the 16 by to give me the same answer of 16? So 16 multiplied by 1 will give you the same answer of 16. So what you do in the denominator, you must do the same thing in your numerator. So you must also multiply the numerator by 1. And let's go to the last fraction. So it is 5 over 8. So we bring down 5 over 8 as it is. Then we look at our denominator again. What number can I multiply the 8 by to give me an answer of 16? So 8 times the 2 will give me 16. So I must do the same thing in my numerator. So I must multiply also my numerator by 2. So the next step is to multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. So if you multiply the numerator, you'll get an answer of 4. And your denominator, 4 times 4 will give you 16. Then the same thing in the second fraction, 2 times 1 will give you 2. Then 16 times 1 will give you 16. Then in the last fraction, we have 5 times 2, which is 10. And we also have 8 times 2 to give me 16. Now the goal was to make my denominators the same. As you can see, boys and girls, my denominators are the same now. It's now 16. So you're gonna keep the same denominator of 16. Then what you're gonna do, you're gonna add your numerators. So you're gonna go 4 plus 2 to give you an answer of 6. Then 6 plus the 10 will give you an answer of 16. So 4 plus 2 again is 6 plus the 10 will give you an answer of 16. Now 16 divided by 16 will give you an answer of what? Of 1. So let's move on to the second example. Now for the second example, if we look at it, we have the present of a mixed number. Now a mixed number will be comprising of a whole number and a fraction. As you can see, we have a whole number, which is 4, and our fraction, which is 1/9. So the first step is to convert this mixed number into an improper fraction. So we're gonna go 3 times 2, 3 times 2, plus 1 over the denominator, which is 3. So over the denominator is 3 of the fraction. So you're gonna bring the same denominator, which is 3. Same thing we're gonna do for our second mixed number. So it will be 9 times 4 plus the 1. So 9 times 4 plus the 1 over the same denominator, which is 9. So we bring down the same denominator, which is 9. So if we go 3 times 2 plus 1 will give us an answer of 7 over the denominator, which is 3. Then next up, we're going to go 9 times the 4 plus 1 will give us an answer of 37/9. So now we're in a position to find what now? Our LCM. So our LCM, we're going to look at our denominators, which is 3 and 9. So the LCM is 9. So you bring down the fraction 7/3 as it is. So we have 7/3, you bring it down as it is. Then you look at your denominator, 3. What number must I multiply the 3 by to give me an answer of 9? So you have to go 3 times 3 to give you an answer of what? 9. Then you do the same thing in your numerator. Multiply the numerator by the same number you multiplied the denominator by. So the numerator must also be multiplied by 3, then bring down the addition sign, then bring down the second fraction, which is 9, then 9 times 1. Then you, sorry, boys and girls, then you're gonna ask yourself, what number must I multiply the 9 by to give me the same answer of 9? Then the answer is 1. So 9 times 1 will give you 9. Then the same thing must be applied in your numerator. So we're gonna multiply the numerator by 1. So we're gonna have an answer of 21/9 plus 37/9. Sorry to correct that error. It is 37/9. Then you're gonna add the two, your numerators. Since the denominators are the same, you keep the same denominator, which is 9, then add your numerators. So we're gonna have 58/9. And that you can write it as a mixed number, which will be 6 and 4/9. So 9 can go into 58 6 times, and it will leave a remainder of 4 over the denominator, which is what? 9. So you keep the same denominator of 9. So that is in terms of addition. So now we're moving on to subtraction. Now for subtraction, the same method you're gonna apply. The only difference now, we're no longer adding fractions, so we're subtracting fractions. So for our first sum, there's no need to convert anything. So we need to find our LCM. So the LCM is 20. So what number must you multiply the 5 by to give you an answer of 20? So you must multiply the 5 times 4 to give you the answer of the LCM, which is 20. So you must also multiply your numerator by the same number that you multiplied your denominator by. So you're also gonna multiply your numerator by 4. Then bring down your sign. Second fraction, bring it down as it is, 1/10. Then ask yourself, what number must I multiply the 10 by to give me an answer of 20? So 10 times 2 will give you 20. Then you must also multiply the numerator by the same number that you multiplied your denominator by. Then the third and last fraction, you bring down 2/20. Then what number must you multiply the 20 by to give you an answer of 20? So 20 times 1 will give you 20. Then in your numerator, 2 times 1. because you must multiply the numerator by the same number you multiplied your denominator by. So as a result of that, we're going to have 16 over 20. How did I get 16 over 20? 4 times 4 will give you 16. Then 5 times 4 will give you 20. Then next up, I'll have 2 over 20. Then lastly, I will have 2 over 20. Now, since my denominators are the same, I will keep the same denominator, which is 20. Then I will subtract. In this case, remember we're subtracting, so I'm no longer adding. So I will subtract my numerator. So I will subtract 16 minus 2 to give me an answer of 14. Then 14 minus 2 will give me an answer of what? Of 12. And we're going to have an answer of 12 over 20. That can simplify to what? To 3 over 5. How did I get 3 over 5, boys and girls? I looked for the highest common factor for 12 and 20. So that means you must look for the highest number which can divide into 12 and also into 20. And that number was 4. So 4 can go into 20, into 12. Sorry to correct that mistake. Into 12 3 times, and it can also go into 20 5 times. So that's how I ended up with 3 over 5. So if you were confused, how did I end up with 3 over 5? The highest common factor for 12 and 20 was 4. So 4 can go into 12 3 times, and 4 can go into 20 5 times. Then let's look at our last example. So our last example, we have a mixed number present. So remember, as we did when we were adding our fraction, we must do the same thing when we're subtracting our fraction, converts the mixed number into an improper fraction. So we'll go 6 times 2, 6 times 2 plus 3 over the denominator, which is 6. Bring down the same denominator. Then in the second fraction, we do the same thing, 3 times 3 plus the 2 over the same denominator, which is 3. Now, after that, we'll get an answer of 15 over 6 minus 11 over 3. Once you are in this step, you have to find your LCM. Remember, you are adding and subtracting fractions. Always find your LCM so that you can make your denominators the same. So in this case, our LCM is 6. So you bring down the first fraction, which is 15 over 6, 15 over 6. So again, ask yourself, what number must I multiply the 6 by to give me an answer of 6, the LCM? So 6 times 1 will give you 6. Then you must multiply the numerator by the same number, which is 1. So 15 times 1. Then let's look at the second fraction. Bring down the second fraction as it is 11 over 3. Then ask yourself, what number must I multiply the 3 by to give me an answer of 6? So 3 times 2 will give you an answer of 6. Then you must multiply the numerator by the same number that you multiply your denominator by. So for the first fraction, we have an answer of 15 over 6 minus an answer of 22 over 6. So the denominators are the same. You keep the same denominator, which is 6. You keep the same denominator, then subtract your numerators. So if you go 15 minus 22, you'll get an answer of negative 7. So, boys and girls, it is possible when you are adding or subtracting fractions to get a negative answer. So if you come across with or get a negative answer in your sum, so just know that it is possible that you can get a negative answer. Your answer doesn't always have to be positive. So please don't be fixated on one thing that you always have to get a positive answer. So it is possible to get a negative answer. And that's when you write it as a mixed number. You can write it as negative 1 and 1 over 6. How did we get negative 1 and 1 over 6? So 6 can divide into 7 or can go into 7 one time, and it will leave a remainder of 1 over the same denominator, which is what? 6. And that's it for today's lesson, boys and girls. So I hope it was a fruitful lesson.
I don't know whether to leave meeting. There's two options. I couldn't remember which one is.
People are talking, people are calling me.
Leave meeting or end for all.
Government has called me too.
She's called you.
Yeah, so I have to set up for you.